So before I begin, I'm going to be talking about a koan, but I'm going to be talking more about language and no language. So just please keep that in mind as I go through this, that there's a broad theme about the construct of language. Book of Serenity, case 52. The case, Master Sozan asked Master Toku, the Buddha's true body is just like space, manifesting its form according to circumstances. It is like the moon and water. How do you understand it? Toku said, it's like a donkey looking down a well, seeing its own reflection. Sozan said, you aren't quite there. Toku said, well, how do you understand it? Sozan said, it's like the well looking up at the donkey. Okay. Well, everyone probably understands that without going much further, but I'll try and expound on it. When I first heard this koan, it was very early in my practice. And at that time, I always understood this koan literally, not metaphorically, meaning that I did not interpret this koan through the nuance of language or the beauty of the allegory. I saw this koan as a representation of raw understanding, an amorphous parable of what exists beyond form and emptiness. The moon in the water and the finger pointing at the moon are beautiful Zen metaphors. But the moon doesn't exist in the water. And without the observer, what really exists at all? Without language, without the self, what is really there? I reflect on how the donkey sees the well. The donkey doesn't know what the well is. The donkey doesn't understand its function, structure, color, or name. It is just this. So how could the well look back on the donkey? And could the well look back on the donkey at all? It seems improbable that a structure could possess these senses. According to quantum physics, the well might know that it is being observed. Particles, when being observed, change from a particle into a wave. So how is this any different from the well looking up at the donkey? I love the imagery in Zen koans. I am enamored with the beauty of the language of sutras and koans. In my early practice, this koan, the phrasing in this koan created incredible hope for me, as did snippets of the Heart Sutra, such as with nothing to attain, or wisdom beyond wisdom, or gone to the other shore. These words imbued me with wonder. I love the erudite nature of these words and the specific composition of these words. I love idioms such as things as they are. They give me the illusion of hope, as if I now know something of things and their true nature. However, the reality is that I do not. I do not know anything. If I remove myself and language, concepts, and constructs from the equation, I know as much as the donkey. About 20 years ago, I attended a martial arts and Zen retreat. This course lasted 3 days. And for each of the 3 days, there was an open dokusan where participants were presented with a koan. This was one koan for the entire group, a simple or seemingly simple koan. And the koan was, what is the source of courage? A 6-word question designed to send the rational mind into a tizzy. At this point in my Zen practice, I had passed a small number of koans. However, this one really got me. What is the source of courage? The question ate at my desire to know, my desire to be right, my desire to show I understood courage, my desire to be intelligent, and my desire to show I knew more than everyone else. Because let's be honest, everyone knows the source of courage, right? So for 2 days, everyone got up and pontificated about courage. Blah, blah, blah. Courage comes from the heart. Blah, blah, blah. Courage is a virtue. Blah, blah, blah. We are all born with courage ad nauseum. By the 3rd day, it became apparent that nobody knew the answer simply because there was no answer. The answer that the Zen teacher was looking for was, how the hell should I know? The word courage is so intertwined with this idea of who we are, who I was as a man, and how I define masculinity. Courage is just a word. Ultimately, it means nothing. My learning from this was that I don't know, I didn't know, and I still don't know. And if I were to remove myself from the question, the answer would have been obvious. Getting back to the koan, the image of the moon's reflection of the water is a beautiful metaphor for our mind and Zen practice. Without the mind, the well just is, and the donkey is, and that's all there is. Things as they are. This koan, with its beautiful metaphors, shows our dualistic nature. But again, my understanding of this was never metaphorical. My interpretation was literal. The donkey has no facility for language, and the well lacks the physical senses to see or rationalize, but only our minds make them different or make that understanding so. And in my early Zen practice, my understanding of this was to go beyond language, to truly see the well as the donkey perceived it, which was pure and untainted, and also how the well could see the donkey, which was similarly pure but illogical to the small mind. I went wide in my interpretation of this koan because it touches on many Zen platforms, such as form and emptiness, and more than I can logically comprehend about form and emptiness. This is perhaps synonymous with enlightenment, of which I cannot articulate through language. In my practice, I think about this koan frequently. And I'm writing of this koan not because I am clear on my articulation or understanding of this koan, but to help me better understand this koan through sharing with the Sangha. With that said, I'd like to share a discourse between 2 Zen masters and their profound understanding of the donkey, or at least a part of the donkey. The Heart Sutra says that beyond every inverted view, one dwells in nirvana. I believe that the next parable is a non-inverted view. Hopefully these words will enlighten you where my commentary could not. The story involves a competition of wits between 2 famous Buddhist scholars, Xiao Shu and Wen Yuan. who lived in 800 AD. Xiao Shu said, "I am nothing but a donkey." Wen Yuan replied, "A donkey? You're so lucky. I am merely a donkey's buttocks." Xiao Shu then said, "Actually, I dreamed that one day I could be a donkey's buttocks. At the moment, I am what comes out of the donkey's buttocks." Wen Yuan replied, "You're privileged. I'd give anything to be what comes out of the donkey's buttocks, for I am but a worm living in what comes out of a donkey's buttocks. And you know why I am there?" And Xiao Chu answered, "Why?" Wen Yuan replied, "Because I wanted to go somewhere special for my summer holidays." And with that line, Wen Yuan won the competition. Anybody have any questions on this?
It's not a competition.
Mark?
I just want to know what he won.
Seems obvious.
Mike?
I don't know how to ask a question about this, but it seems that by this koan and stuff like this, it reminds us how much what we call our reality in our life is made up by the languages, the icons, the concepts that we have in our heads. And that maybe this koan is a way of saying, look, you know, it just is what it is. Because you call it something doesn't mean it is that. But again, I keep bumping my head against the wall and realize I can't figure this stuff out, you know, and I haven't been doing this as long as you, Spencer, and some of the other members of this Sangha. And I find that the more I learn, the less I really know. So thank you for reminding me how little I know.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, this to me is just a reminder of deconstruction of form and language down to nothing. Sort of when I look at my dogs, I think about how they see me, or what language do they interpret a scent as, or, you know, I think about, believe it or not, I went to film school, God knows how many years ago, and there's something called film language, right? And, you know, 100 years ago, people didn't understand that there's an establishing shot, a medium shot. People couldn't, you have to learn film language to understand it. So if you showed a modern film to somebody 200 years ago, they wouldn't know what they're watching because they don't understand the language. Because we've learned it. We don't know that we've learned it. So how do we back all the way out of that? I sort of see it as that, you know, how does the donkey see the well? And that's one deconstruction, but I think the next level of deconstruction is really the well seeing the donkey, which is really irrational to our logical mind, but this is designed to penetrate it. But, you know, the koan itself is much more than that, you know, speaking to our dualism, you know, and the moon and the water, and, you know, how that doesn't exist without our mind, right? How that is just an illusion. We're the party that makes it so. Is there another question?
Spencer, how do
John.
how do you feel right now?
I'd like to say empty. Because, you know, in a nihilistic way, because I usually do, but I think this koan allows me to get to a place where I feel emptier and a place where I actually have access to a greater understanding of this koan. Yeah, John?
For me, it points a bit to our narcissism as humans and our idea that our ability to think and put words to things and so forth makes us somehow more knowing than the well. Whereas in the world of emptiness, without thought, without any attachments, why is the view of the well any better or worse or anything than our own? Am I pointed in the right direction, Spencer?
Yeah, I sort of see it that it's all like same, and only we make it different, right? Only language makes it different. Only language separates us. You know, it's the great differentiator, right? You know, more, better, different, you know, differences, similarities, that's all we're looking for. But beyond that, you know, everything is commonality, but we just don't see it because our brains create this separation.
The well is without delusion. The well's a lucky being. Thank you, Spencer.
Thank you.
It seems to me, Spencer, that your dog knows you better than you know him.
Yeah, I'd like to think so, but I have no access to that. So I wish I did.
Jane?
Yeah. Spencer, thank you so much for your talk today, because you've given me a lot to think about, and not just from the koan, just your comments as they were really made me think a lot. So thank you. And I was just wondering, if the donkey looks in the well, why would we assume it thought anything at all? It just looked in, saw something, and that was enough. It probably just moved away and never gave it a second thought. But I think the Zen master's comment about the well was mostly to point out that our taking a standpoint is the problem with it. You know, that we naturally assumed the important point was, what did the donkey think? And the Zen master saying, no, what did the well think? and it's just a changing of the place, which makes us consider, wow, that I hadn't even entered my mind. But thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Jane. Yeah, that juxtaposition is really hard to deal with the well, you know, having some sense, or, you know, and it makes you really think, you know, what is the well truly a metaphor for, and how do we remove ourselves from this equation? So, thank you.
Rachel?
What is a donkey known for?
In Zen, or just,
Goose donkey.
you know, I think it's, you know, being a you know, a beast of burden, right? It's, we ascribe all these qualities of dullness perhaps to the donkey, but, you know, again, are they any different than the dog? Are they any different than us? Are they any different from the well? And, you know, that's really where we start digging in with all the tangible differences when none of them apply.
Rachel?
Thanks a lot, Spencer. Well, there are a couple things, language. Uh, Naturally, humans think of words, not sounds so much. But I'm sorry, I couldn't help but think nobody seems to argue that we shit and donkeys shit. What I mean, as far as I know, no one says I shit better than the donkey. Whereas we're most anxious to say we think better than the donkey. But the other thing that I said, I had this image, maybe you'll smile, is you know how many people throw coins into wells and found what I mean is just for a second, I thought it may be fantastical, but people seem to think they could throw a coin in that well. The spirit of the well is going to grant their wishes. So I just find that kind of its own koan. And thanks a lot, Spencer.
Thank you. All I could think of is the donkey might be a prolific shitter and I might be a prolific thinker, but they both make no difference, right? So.
Mike?
Another thing that your conversation brought up, I was thinking about, I found out from a friend of mine that he didn't know he was colorblind until he was 65 years of age. His reality was complete. He didn't question it, nothing. And all of a sudden he discovered he couldn't see the color blue. And he was a doctor and everything else like that. And I think sometimes that's kind of what that koan reminds me of, is that we all agree on our reality. So a donkey looks at a well, yeah, who knows? It may mean something completely different to him than it does to us. We don't know what a donkey thinks, but their world is complete. Our world is complete. And my friend who was colorblind's world was complete until somebody said, hey, wait a minute, you don't agree on everything else we agree on, which this color is purple, not blue. And it was like, so that your koan discussion kind of reminded me of that conversation he and I had a couple of days ago. It's like, reality is just an agreed upon concept. So maybe that does relate to your koan, maybe it doesn't. I just came up with that thought. Thank you.
No, I agree. I mean, we live in this consensus reality through language, and we're all in agreement that blue is blue. But your friend who's colorblind lives outside of our consensus just through, not only through language, but through perception. And, what is their reality any different? So. Good question. Thank you. That it?
Mitch.
Mitch?
Mitch?
All right, there you go. I just wanted to just one little thing. There was a very famous play 40 years ago. It was called, what the hell was it called? Hunt for Intelligent Life in the Universe, I think it was. And one of the comments was that reality is a collective hunch. That was it. And that's what it is. It's just a collective hunch. Our reality as an American society is different than a collective reality if we were living in Cambodia or Belize. It's different. Tropical, against Norway's Laplanders. I mean, it's a different reality.
Yeah.
A donkey can only think the way a donkey's brain is structured to think. A human being only thinks the way that our brain is structured to think. Right?
Yeah.
Who knows? Who knows?
I think about that, but then I think, what if our brains had the capacity to be 180 degrees off and think that way? And
That's
that's
what,
a different reality,
well, that just defines reality.
right? But does
Which
that
is-
define enlightenment?
We're not supposed to talk about that.
I don't know. Peter, Jane, come on, we need a quick answer on this.
This actually has no relevance whatsoever, but
Yeah.
we have someone living with us to help take care of our lives now because of Jane's situation, and one time I pointed to something and said, and she was saying, which one is it? And I said, the orange one. And it turned out she couldn't find it, and she turned out that in their language, they don't have orange, and they don't perceive orange. So everything that we call orange, they call yellow. So does orange exist or not for them? Is there a color called orange?
The word not probably, but maybe the actual orange does.
For her, no. And orange is yellow, even though it's called orange. Yeah. But as I said, it had no relevance whatsoever. Yes.
And neither did this Dharma talk, so thank you.
Thank you very much, Spencer, by the way. That was very nice Dharma talk. That was a really good example of a Dharma talk. That was terrific.
That was really
That was
good.
terrific.
I agree.
Yeah.
Thank
You don't have to say you know what it means. You have to say, here it is. Okay. Yeah.
Chris had his hand up. I don't know, he took it down though.
Yeah, because I felt like we were coming in on a good ending, and I was like, I didn't want to ruin it. Well, I'm talking, so I might as well keep talking. Thank you very much for the talk, Spencer, and a lot of that what came up in response to that koan reminded me of the song of the Jewel Mirror of Samadhi, most notably the line "Form and image behold one another," and when I kind of got lost in the sort of race to the bottom between the donkey, the cheeks, the poop, and whatever else. But the first part really spoke to me. I liked it. I can't really say exactly why, but maybe it spoke to this sort of notion that I find in a lot of different Zen teachings that, let's say, provisionally, the donkey does recognize its reflection in the water. That, again, provisionally, let's say it's an intelligence in the donkey that recognizes that reflection. But the reality is that intelligence is not actually in the donkey, that it's in the well. How could that be? Well, no pun intended. I don't have a good, I've gone as far as I can go with my language that I've got and my ability to think, which, par for the course. I didn't really say much, so.
Thank you, Chris.
One more brief
Yes.
comment. I was having a wonderful Saturday morning. It started with a nice sit, and now I've had to think so much my head hurts.
My apologies. So,
Yes, Rachel.
I couldn't, and thank you again, Spencer. I couldn't resist it. I just recalled, there's a lot of discussion and research now about the gut being the second brain. So, you see, it all comes back. It'll all come around.
thank you.
Okay,
Spencer.
everybody?
Yes.
Yes.
One quick note. Spencer,
Wait,
Spencer, you seem to be reading that talk. Are you going to be able to, would you consider making it available to the Sangha?
Sure, I could get it to Chris and he can do his magic with it.
Thank you.
Sandy?
Can you hear me? Oh, good.
Yes, yes.
Thank you, Spencer, for your talk. It was very enjoyable. After you were done with the talk, it seemed to me that having the ability to think and to recognize things or name things or put identity to things is really just a function of the brain to protect the body and itself, to protect life. And all sentient beings have brains and they perform that service. It allows them to survive in the wild if they're wild animals. So it does have its purpose, but then again, it also seems to kind of throw a wrench into the mix and make life a little bit more difficult. In some ways it's good, in some ways it's bad, and it just is what it is. But I don't know. That was my thought after your talk.
I see it a little differently. You know that. I think somebody's got a mute, but there we go. I think the brain is a hammer looking for a nail. And it gives itself identity through language and creates this false self through language and color, and it ascribes purpose to itself. And that's all the brain does, is it's just looking, say, hey, look at me, I'm useful, you know, this is what I do, I find differences, look how smart I am, and it's just nothing. And you know, and that's our reptilian brain. So
Okay, everybody. Well, that's a good ending to the day. Alligators, all of us are alligators in the process of doing Zen.